Hello there everyone, welcome back to Around the World, or as I was suggested, Around the Grid, which is probably a better name, considering that we're planning to win with virtually every team. We're about halfway through the first season, we have just entered summer break after Belgium. We currently have 86 points, we are pretty far behind Merck, but honestly, I'm fine with finishing 5th, so it shouldn't really be a concern. In the consideration of that, I'd say we've done well so far. Currently, Bottas is in 7th. He is the main source of our points. Show has scored 9. He has scored 77. So things are looking good. We're also looking up for the Faster Pit Stop Award here. And that should bring in some extra cash next year, which is what we are basically aiming for. Luckily, last race, everything passed. Everything is looking good. We are still working on research to, as I said, focus next year's car. We have completed what the board wanted this year, which was the big main concern. And excuse me. And as we have now passed next month, we can have a quick look at a few things here. So the driver development update, Bottas is still developing a 74 adaptability, 85 reactions now. Show, on the other hand, has 2 points of cornering, 2 points of reactions, so he too developing pretty nicely. For Survey even getting some points. And for July here, for the other teams, nothing too majorous going on. Now, in terms of how we want to do the pit stop training here, we are going to set up a custom training schedule, and I'll quickly set that up for this month. This is the calendar we'll be going for. It'll keep us within that tired range for the race itself. And as you can see, the teammate is going to go up into exhausted territory. Nothing much really can do about that. And we've also set up so that we are ready if there is a race this weekend. And honestly, if there isn't, we'll just put them into training, so it's not a big deal. We just want to keep the fatigue low. And we have done a little bit of mix here, a little bit of gym training, a little bit of pit stop drills, because we are getting high on that on that error chance even when we're well rested. And the pit stop times aren't great looking, I'll be honest, but we'll be trying to kind of walk on that edge where we'll be aiming at getting the pit stop championships, and that's going to be the end of that goal. Basically, we just need to be quicker than the AI while reducing our chance of error is going to be the goal. Now, we do have some researchers coming up, the rear wing, the suspension, both of those have finished. And for the suspension here, we do get a small boost. For the rear wing, I believe we also get a small boost, but again, this is going to help us massively next year. And I think what we're going to do is just start more research, because, well, that is what kind of matters here. In terms of what we want to do here, underfloor could be a very good choice. As you can see, it gives speed, it gives acceleration, it gives basically everything we need. Suspension would be great for low speed cornering. But I think underfloor is probably the better option here. Even the rear wing might be a better option, because as you can see, the top speed there, it is something that we are severely lacking. So we'll put in a top speed research. We do not have any safety wind tunnel time available. We'll be getting that soon. And the other one I think we'll do is going to be underfloor. Suspension and chassis will somewhat be lagging behind, but it's just how things are going to have to be, unfortunately. So we're going to put in another underfloor research here, and that should be fine. Again, the reason why we keep the sliders in the middle is because sliders don't really have any... They don't have any power right now. You can place a slider wherever you feel like, and it'll still do the exact same thing. It's supposed to be fixed in 1.8, but 1.8 isn't out yet. But right now in 1.7, sliders don't do anything for your research. So you can play around with them, but keep in mind it won't have any effect on your research at all. They'll all still act as if they were in the middle down the line, which is why I do not move them. We've got the front wing done here. Again, minor upgrade. I think we are going to do another front wing. It's going to help more with dirty air. It's going to help more with brake cooling. We're going to get some decent cornering stats. And again, it's basically that we get that extra dirty air. We get some good cornering stats across the board. That we do this instead of, say, the suspension. But again, suspension will get some work later on. Basically. Now, next race is just in a few days here. We are approaching quickly. And we do have an event here where we can sponsor Taylor Bernard. And sure, let's do that. This 200,000 is not a huge chunk of money. We'll go ahead and sponsor him. Performance targets here for the Dutch Grand Prix is going to be fairly simple. you want to have one driver in the top 10. I'm pretty sure that is doable. And we should be able to get both drivers into Q2. And that is basically what we're going to be going for with both of these in order to try and make a little bit extra cash. That is what we'll be doing for probably the entirety of the video, so I won't be showing too much of that. But yeah, that is it with the, the summer breakdown. We do have some research coming in here with the side pods, among others. We'll have a look at what we'll spend the rest of ATR periods on, but we'll be focusing on that sort of development as as we get close to the end. For now, let's see how this Dutch Grand Prix goes. Just want to take the chance to show you guys that you can actually make some unorthodox strategies with the soft tires in particular. But these are basically the base strategies for this race at the Sandvoort. As you can see, the two stops here are basically very equal, 29, 28, 29, 29. And the stoppers that I made here are actually slightly quicker by about 5 or so seconds. But what I want to talk about is this one right here, where we're running an attack medium and attack hard, and then a more relaxed soft. It's not running full conserve, but we are tuning down the tire usage a little bit. And as you can see, it is actually the quickest strategy that I have come up with for this track. It's really, really quick. And the idea here is actually incredibly simple. The softs have an inherent advantage in terms of lap times, meaning that turning them down doesn't hurt them much. So the idea here is that while we go full attack on the hard to make the most use of it, you gain a lot of lap time from going attack. We will make that up because of the high abrasiveness, meaning that the tire degradation is fairly high. We'll make up for that by using a soft as a hard tire, because basically with soft tires, if you conserve, they go a lot quicker. And as you can see here, we can even go full conserve here and save a little bit more time if we really wanted to. So you do have some options here. If we do this, we could probably go attack towards the end. So you can actually, as I said, do some strategies with conserving on the softs that can be quicker than some of the other strategies. Let's say that we added another soft here for conservation. And as you can see, it is still fairly quick. And we're basically just turning a soft tire into a full attack hard tire. Time is still the same. And that does give you some options. Even if you switch this back to hard, go full attack, it's going to be the exact same thing. So the reason why I'm doing a attack hard rather than, another soft like this is due to the fact that going attack is going to help you make overtakes. You're going to probably have a little bit of a harder time overtaking while running a soft like this, but you can do this to make up for, lacking lacking hard tires, lacking medium tires. Using a soft as a hard by running conserve is definitely worth it, because as you can see here from the, the strategy planner, we don't really lose much time by doing this. The main loss that we're going to be seeing is due to us kind of lacking pace to overtake, because we'll be having good pace over the course of the stint, but we'll be a little bit toothless when it comes to overtaking because we're running at conserve or a little bit slower. So that is why I personally prefer to do 2 attack stints and then turn that final soft stint into a bit more of a conserve, just get the car home stint, where you can still keep pace as if you were running on another medium or another hard on, standard. So that is an option to you. It's actually fairly powerful. So on high abrasive tracks, on tracks where you're lacking a hard tire and you'd, like to have one, chuck in a soft tire, put it to conserve, and see if you can get more time out of the race this way. This, again, it also has flexibility, so it's not all bad. But I thought I'd just make clear that this is an option that you have, and it's a fairly powerful option depending on how you use it. Kind of like running attack for all your stints are. I want to take a moment and talk a little bit about some of the issues that you might run into with this strategy. As you can see, Bottas' tires right now are kind of teetering on the edge of being underheated, and that does affect tire performance negatively. So it is a bit of a concern running the strategy, and as you can see, we are on the edge right now. So if we were to, run in anything else, we'd actually be losing out. We kind of have to run them on this for higher setting, and even then we are losing a little bit of performance because we can't keep the tires up to temperature. So the strategy does have a flaw, and I need you to be aware of it because it is potentially quite a fatal one. but it's not necessarily all bad. Even while teetering on the edge, it should be okay. And as you see, Bottas is currently running in 7th. We have Show down in 11th. He is kind of keeping up with Russell, so even with everything going on, we are going to have ourselves poised here to just have a better finish to this race than many other cars around us. We do have better tyre wear than virtually everyone, the exception here being the 2 Alpha Towers in the back, Norris, and of course Russell. So Show's going to have a little bit of a harder fight. Bottas could have a decent fighter as well. So what we're going to do now is probably just turn both of them up to aggressive. It's just 7 laps to go. Aggressive is probably good enough for the time being. Degradation is high here to the point where if we go full attack, these tires probably aren't going to last till the end. That is how high the degradation is. So we'll take it a little bit slow and we'll see if we are catching the cars in front. If we aren't, we could turn it up to full attack for the last couple of laps. But yeah, we are getting closer to the end here. 14.5, we're still running around the same lap times, but again, we don't have as good car as the Aston Martin, so that is perfectly understandable. Same for Show, really. We don't have a car that is as good as the Mercedes, although we are getting very close to being top of the line car. And as you can see, degradation-wise, we are now looking to potentially hit that 30% mark before the end of this race. We still have 3 laps to go, but Show is getting overtakes done. Bottas, while getting closer to Stroll, is probably not going to be able to make something happen there. If we are to make something happen, we'd have to go full attack and gamble on that 30% being, that 5% we have left being enough to catch him. And the cost of failing this gamble is that gas that catches us, but it's a gamble you can try. It's not something that is necessarily bad. And for Show here, his gamble now is going to be to just deploy everything and try and catch good old Russell here on the final corner. And he still has a lap to do, don't get me wrong. There's still a little bit of time. We might also have a little bit of a problem here with Bottas and his fuel. So we'll see if he actually gets to the finish line or not. It is potentially worrisome, but I think he just about makes it. And then he runs out. So yeah, keep that in mind. You can also run out of fuel if you forget to pay attention to that. In this case, I was more focused on explaining the strategy, the negatives of it. But as you can see here, for Bottas 7th, for Show 10th. Show did lose out. He did qualify 8th, or start 8th. I think he qualified 10th, actually. But if you keep that in mind, you can actually do some pretty good stuff, even with a team like Alfa Romeo, by just turning one of yourselves into a hard. I just want to, show this type of strategy. But we finished 7th and 10th. We'll be happy with that. Verstappen still being, dominating 40 seconds ahead of Leclerc. And in the Constructors, we do catch up to Mercedes this time because both of them finished out of the points. Show did manage to snatch the point from the other one. So we could still have a fight with them on our hands. We still have the quickest pit stop, so we don't really need to focus too much on the pit stop times. Getting the error chance down right now is probably going to be more valuable to us. So don't be too hung up on pit stop times. As long as you are actually, quicker than your rivals and have a low failure chance, I'd say that is more valuable than beating them by, say, 2/10 or so at every pit stop, rather than, avoiding that error that will lose you points. Carbon inspection, we have a bunch of failed parts. This is going to be painful. 5 failed parts for car 2, 3 failed parts for car 1. And basically what this means is that we're going to have to replace everything, like so. And after we've done this, we're going to have to go to our warehouse and go through and see what we need to, remake. So we'll go to the warehouse. We do need to make a chassis. We do still have limited production, not facilities per se, but production slots. And that's going to be a bit of a limiter, particularly once you get close to triple headers. That is going to be a bit painful. But for now, it looks good, although we are kind of missing the suspension if something goes wrong, and we might need to go down to the lowest spec one. So probably should have made a suspension sooner, but we'll be having a race now in 4 days, then we'll have a week off, so it's not really a big deal. Yeah, let's continue this season. We're going to be finishing up the season 1 during this video, so there'll be a lot of things that are kind of left out, but I just want to show you, as I said, the race strategy there, because it is an option that you have available to you, and it is pretty powerful if you do it right. We have also hit a new month here, right before the race. This is going to be our strategy in terms of the pit crew. It's not really much, but it will assure that we use as much fatigue as we can, and that we are well rested at the end of the month and going into the race weekend. So, as I said, it's not going to change things massively here. We're going to lower our chance of mistake slightly. We're going to get a little bit lower on the pit stop times. Car building is going to be losing out, but again, it's kind of what we have to do. Because it also is the end of the month, we did get an update on our drivers. Let's see where that's at. There it is. And as you can see, just a very minor upgrade here. We get point reaction for Bottas. We get 2 points of adaptability for Show. So it's still good, don't get me wrong. And we'll just continue here and power through to the next race weekend. We've had a bit of an incident here where Show has been in a bit of an incident. But I don't think it's a big one, luckily. I think it's just a light touch. The gearbox is basically just wear. So he actually survived, and more importantly, his suspension, I believe, survived too. So yeah, no issues. He did get a time penalty, that's really it. Bottas is currently running 13th with a fresh set of softs. We'll be running until the end. Just 6 seconds up to 8th though, which is basically the goal of this race, so that should be very doable. We did run the strategy. There hasn't really been any incidents apart from shows here. Again, the gearbox here damage is just from wear and tear. But as you can see, we have a DRS train that we're going to need to get through, but Bottas here shouldn't have any problems. They're all on old hards, and he's on basically fresh softs. So he should chase all these guys down within the next 10 laps and get himself up into 8. Decent result for Bottas. We did lose a couple positions from where we started, but there was a lot of penalties here, and that is why. We'll still take the 8th place though, and once again, no marking the points, so we are gaining on them, but again, beating them here isn't going to be the main goal. Bad race though from Show, started 11th, fell down to 14th. I did try and put him on a one-stopper here, it didn't really work out for us. As you can see, he's 15 seconds behind Ocon in 13th, and well, he's pretty far off the points as a result. So I still think 2 stops is best here. For this race track, it's basically just quicker, and it is what it is though. We'll see what we can do towards the end of the season. Once again, our pit stops are looking good here, 2.3 seconds. We have about a 10th or maybe even 2 tenths on the next best team. So pit stop challenge wise, we're looking pretty good. Definitely looks promising, to put it like that. The rear wing manufacture is complete, and the sidepod research is also complete, but what we want to do here is actually get those suspensions manufactured for the next race weekend. And next up is going to be Singapore, but before that we're going to have to go through the inspection. Apparently a lot of parts are failing now because we are running minimum lifetime ban parts. It's just one of the, one of the flaws of business, so to speak. The sidepod is here, it did have a huge upgrade, as you can see with the safety time we put into it. And if we were to upgrade it more, it wouldn't really be a huge increase in stats. Honestly, I think I'd rather go with the suspension in that case. But we might actually just go for the chassis, because the chassis is super quick to develop, but on the other side, it's just 5 more days for the side pods. So I'm a little bit on the fence on what we want to do here. The chassis boosting it a little bit wouldn't be a bad idea. So let's just get a chassis project in there. It's perfectly fine. And again, the most thing you see that you'll be considering is just stat to day ratio to expertise ratio for next year. We want to try and buff that as high as we can. Now, you will also, of course, struggle a little bit with running out of parts. It's just how things are going to be, particularly if we are unlucky and have some crashing. We also do have a bit of a problem here with Show. He is on his final engine, so he's probably going to need a new engine before the end of the season. We do have money, though, so it's not actually a big concern. His contract is running out, so we'll have to see if we can get someone to replace him. Might just pick up a rookie and then try and snatch a drive at the start of next season. We'll see. We'll have to, see what we can do there. Same here with the head of Aero. If we can get a new one, we will go for it. But again, we will concern ourselves more with this in, I say, the last month before the year ticks over. So back in December, after the year is done. Other than that, I did want to talk a little about facilities. We do want to upgrade the factory once more. And honestly, we might as well just do it right now. We're in September. We have October, November, December. So 4 months, 120 days. We want to get this done before the start of next season so that we have extra slots. Honestly, upgrading these would be nice as well. But making sure that we can manufacture the projects that we're going to be making at the start of next season is going to be key to giving us, you know, a decent start. Team Hub Race Sim, we aren't really going to be able to, we're not going to be here long enough to really take advantage of them. So there's no need for us to invest in them. But I would like to invest in, say, the car part test center. It just takes a month though to make, same here with the suspension sim. So while we might want to do this, right now it's not really when we need to. But considering what we, honestly, let me backtrack here for a second. We're going to upgrade this and we're going to try and get it up to level 3 by the start of next season. That's going to be the goal. We're going to change it up slightly. We have a new ATR period. We'll have to see exactly where we put that. I think it's the Red Wings turn, maybe. We'll see. Underflow manufacture is complete, and we're basically just immediately going to manufacture another one. You do need to stay on top of the parts here. That's going to be the goal. And with that, we'll just get right into Singapore. I don't think we have anything in particular that's going to be happening before that. We have a regulation change financially. Season price share is going to be changed. It's not going to have an impact on us this season, but basically it's going to affect the results of next season. So honestly, we would like to probably vote against this because any team that we take over is going to be 10th place or, well, it's going to be 10th place. So honestly, it won't affect us until probably a couple of seasons then. Once we start taking over teams in 9th and 8th because, well, the bottom teams we've already played. I do fully expect some of these teams to fall back down. So we're going to vote against this. Again, don't really need much more money for the top teams. And hopefully that does not go through. We'll see though. We have our first safety car here in Singapore. And it is unfortunately Show that is the cause of the safety car. He's destroyed a chassis, a rear wing, and a suspension. So that is a bit unfortunate. Of course, this also means that the powertrain took a bit of a whack here. And as a result, he's probably going to be taking a lot of penalties next race out. And that's going to hurt us financially quite a lot. This is the final good engine that he has, so he's definitely going to need a new engine, as this one is about to reach the yellow zone. The ERS here as well is the final one. The gearbox is the final one. So he might actually need straight up a full new set of components here. We might need to have him sit out a couple of races from a strategic standpoint. Bottas, doing good here, up in 7th, behind Stroll. But we are going to, of course, be pitting here. We're basically close to when we wanted to pit anyways. So we're going to get him in here on the hards. There's no real reason not to. Everyone is going to pit here. It's going to be pandemonium in the pit lane. I don't actually know if we're going to come out where we are because there is, as I said, going to be so many cars coming in that that's just straight up going to be difficult. I do want to see what happens to Show though. So we'll see in a second, I would assume.
We've got a yellow flag. Here we are, we're looking at turn 11. The car makes contact.
I'm surprised that hit did that much damage because that didn't seem like a super hard hit. But at the same time, I can understand that it did whack him pretty hard. Now, we'll see now if we can, as I said, find a good window to pit and come out in. Luckily enough, we didn't actually get held up. We actually made up places during the pit stops. So, for once, that did work out to our advantage. We'll take that for sure. And I think it's fine to just keep these hards on full attack. We should be able to save enough of them during the safety car here that it will not be an issue. And as you can see, we're running a bit of an unorthodox strategy again, but we do want to run a little bit conservative, a little bit of light on those soft tires on the final stint to hopefully give us a little bit of an edge here. But honestly, if we had an extra hard set, that would probably be the best. For now, though, we'll continue and we'll see where we end up at the end of this race. Bottas pushed all he had. We ended up with a 7th place, a little bit behind Hamilton, which is a bit unfortunate, but we'll take that. It is points, and it is still points for us. So, as I said, we probably aren't going to be able to catch Mercedes here, but 5th place is still respectable. And honestly, with the issues that we had early in the season, we'll be happy with that for sure. Pit stop wise, we're still pretty strong. Unfortunately, now, as you can see here, the Red Bulls had better pit stops than us in this case, but we still have a healthy lead, so I'm not too worried. Particularly also once we get Show back in the saddle, that should be fine. But what is going to be interesting now is just having a look at Show and seeing where we're at in terms of the car damage. That's always going to be a bit of a problem. Now, as you saw that we also lost a little bit of money. That is due to me putting both cars into Q2 as a guarantee. We failed, so we did not get a payout for that. And if we have a look here at the Show's car, we can just swap out the cars parts that got destroyed. And, well, that's pretty simple. Fortunately, rather, we did get that suspension made in time. We are a little bit behind on parts, though, and that does worry me. But as I said, his show is going to have to buy a new engine. He's going to have to buy a new ERS. He is going to have to buy a new gearbox before the end of this season. So we might do that next time out at Suzuka. But that is basically 7.5 million off the cost cap that goes into his car. And for Bottas, he might need to. But we might also be safe there. It's 7 races to go. 3 sprints. So it's kind of on the limit. But he is going to need a new ERS next week out. He still has gearboxes, but we're probably going to be spending 10 million, probably 15 million before the end of this season on just new parts. And in terms of the cost cap, what we have remaining, we can take the projected minus remaining. That should give us what we can expect. And in this case, we have about 51 million remaining, which is actually more than I would have thought that we would have at this stage. But that does give us, you know, the... it does give us the freedom to buy the parts if we need to. In this case, it's going to be about probably 15 million if you need a new set of every part for both of them, 17 million or so. But we might need, as I said, probably going to need a new engine for Bottas and Show by the end of the season. We're probably going to need a new ERS for both of them. And we're going to need a new engine, sorry, not new engine, new gearbox at least for Show. So we have at least 16 million of that 50 million we have left sewn up in basically new parts. So it's going to be a bit costly, but we'll make the best out of it, hopefully. Now, regulation mode, the financial changes, went through, meaning that the top teams now get more money, the bottom teams are going to get less. That is going to hurt us a little bit, but honestly, it's also going to make it a little bit more, you know, feeling a little bit better when we do win. But for now, though, we are going to, once again, make another chassis. We're going to make the other parts that we need here. And again, we are developing the car in a way that kind of allows for the weaker parts, because we're doing a lot of research and we're kind of maximizing our money to expertise gain. And what I mean by this is that your expertise gain is calculated by daily. So the longer a project goes for, the more total expertise you'll get. The more engineers you put on it, the more daily expertise you'll get, but the shorter the project will be. So unless you're planning to run a full, you know, all 4 slots for the entire year with full engineers, it's better to just keep one engineer on it, doing it like kind of I'm doing. But if you have the cost cap freedom, if you have the money, feel free to put as many engineers as you can on every single project and keep all the slots running the entire year. That is going to give you more expertise than what I'm doing, but it's also going to take more out of your cost cap, and that is why I'm not doing it. To be fair though, with 50 million, 35 million really, right now available to us, we can probably speed up and put some more engineers on some of these projects, particularly say the chassis and maybe, you know, one other project, in order to speed them up and get a little bit more out of our engineers. So in this case, we're just going to do it like this. And it's going to, as I said, speed up the projects. We're going to get a little bit more expertise daily. But again, unless we can keep these slots going until the end of the year, it's not going to be worth it to do it like this. So if that made sense. More engineers, more expertise daily, shorter projects, less engineers, more total expertise, more expertise per, you know, dollar used, if you will. Now, we do have these, basically, driver contract, the staff stuff. We'll deal with that later. For now, though, I am actually curious if we have any of the top drivers interested in joining. And we do have Alonso here being open to negotiation. So we might just go ahead right now and negotiate a contract for him for next year, because that's what I'm thinking. We are going to most likely replace Show. It's just the, you know, a good choice at this point. Stroll is also potentially a good candidate. He does have some rare, very good performances, so it could be fun to pick him up. But honestly, we're going to try and negotiate for Alonso here, and I'll see if we can make a contract that he would, you know, agree to, and see if we can bring him into the team next year. Finally, figured out a contract that Alonso would actually accept. As you can see here, it's 20 million yearly. So it's going to be quite the increase compared to what currently Show is making. I think he's making less, 2 million or so, maybe less. So there's going to be quite a high cost next season, but I think it's going to be more than worth it. 2 seasons is what we ended up putting him in for. We do also pay him 1.2 million in signing bonus, but he will be in car 2 next season for replacing Show. And honestly, I think that is something that you would need to do. He should be far more reliable. And it's actually going to be interesting to have him here. So it's going to cost us, as you can see, 7 million, because he also does have a buyout fee. We do pay him a signing bonus. But I think this is going to be worth it in the long run. Again, we are going to be winning next season. So if the team gets a little bit, demolished, it's not going to be the worst thing ever. Now, in terms of a reserve driver, we can always just find young talent somewhere. And I think that is going to be the play here, to find young talent in, say, F2. And pick one of them up for our team. Again, it doesn't really matter too much who our reserve is, honestly. But picking up some of the younger ones, Pocher, for instance, could be a good idea. And I think we'll just go ahead and do just that. There we go. This is Pocher's contract. We'll just go ahead and hire him. Again, it's for next season. 3 seasons. Should be fine. So we'll go ahead and put him in for our current reserve. That solves the driver issue. We'll solve the staff issue a little bit later. But I'm looking forward to seeing how Alonso is going to do for us. For now, though, we're going to speed along to the Japanese Grand Prix. And we do have some research to deal with before we get there. Car part manufacturing, rear wing, suspension, meaning that we are basically getting up to a bit of a better position. We also got a message here from Mike Crack. I see you've signed Alonso for your team. Can understand why. They perform well. Let me be clear, we're coming for you in the championship. Alonso's still with us for now, and we're going to make the most of that. Best of luck. So yeah, basically, you get a little bit of a quip now when you poach drivers from other teams. We also have a few other things going on. As I said, the suspension rear wing, we do need to start new manufacturing. Sponsorship obligations, race hospitality events. Generally, I just deny these. They're usually just a pain to deal with to begin with. And most of these pay very little, except for this one, driver media appearance. But what we're going to do instead is jump quickly into the warehouse, see where we're at with pieces, and manufacture the ones we're lacking. Because, well, kind of need to... We need to stay on the positive side when it comes to our car parts. We do also have some research starting now. Well, finishing rather than starting. At the end of... before this race. Sorry, I'm a little bit out of it. But yeah, we have the underfloor research complete. We have the rear wing research complete. And for the underfloor, yeah, I am considering putting in another safety time. But I think we're going to put the current hours that we have into the rear wing. Gives a little bit of easy overtakes next year. Boost a little bit of a top speed there as well. A little bit of cornering. It gives a little bit of everything that we kind of need at this stage. So we are going to put this period into the rear wing. We might do the underfloor with the final period. But this should be, honestly, a good bet, I would say. That's what we're going to do. Put one engineer on that. And the second research that we will do, we'll have a look at what we actually have available to us that would be beneficial. I'm still very tempted to do some research for the suspension. The underfloor, though, does give us huge boosts on basically everything. The dirty air tolerance. The brake cooling would be nice, but we already have a fairly decent one. So it should be up to 60% next year anyways. And with that, I think we're just going to do another underfloor research. It is pretty good, you know. It is the base of your car. So we'll put one more in there. And we'll have a quick look at the board now and see where are we actually in terms of making some progress for next year. So the front wing has somewhat caught up with most things. Need a little bit of the high speed and medium speed. But we have made up for the low speed loss, at least. So that is good. For the rear wing, it is almost on the positive side. Lacking, again, a little bit of high speed and medium speed. The underfloor is also still lacking a little bit of high speed. So we do need to put in a little bit more work there. The suspension, more than made up for it because we put in CFD and wind hold time. So yeah, we might need to do that for the underfloor again, honestly. We'll see. But right now, I think it should be okay. We'll be jumping into the next race here. The Grand Prix, if you will. We will be putting one driver top 10 for 5 races. It is a bit of a gamble, honestly. Because if Bottas has a bad race, and of course we're going to need to buy new parts for him, it's going to make that really difficult. But I think it is a gamble that's worth taking. We'll say once again, both drivers into Q2. We did fail last time around. One driver into Q3. So it's a bit ambitious, but I think we can pull it off. So with that, I'll speed through the next few races, and we'll see where we stand after that. I was talking a little bit earlier about the fact that we're probably going to have to eat a few penalties here, particularly for both cars. Now, I forgot to actually remember how much we had in the bank before going into this, but I think we have enough where we can just straight up buy all the parts that we need and still have a little bit left over. So for Bottas, there's 7 races to go, including this one. There's 3 sprints, and basically you can say look at it as 8.5 race. We usually lose about 5% each race. We can make this engine work. We'd be down to about 35%, but we can make that work. The problem is this one probably will not survive all the practices, meaning that we are going to need a new engine anyways at one point for Bottas as well. Now his ERS is basically busted. We're going to need a new one there no matter what. And for the gearboxes, he should be fine, I think. He's not that bad off. But after Show's crash last time around, he is in an incredibly bad position in terms of dealing with his car parts. So you can see this engine, 53%. Does not have enough engine to make it till the end of the season. Same here with the ERS. It's still usable, but it too will not make it till the end of the season. And the same here with the gearboxes. He's going to need at least one more. So for Show here, we're going to take a full set of penalties, 8.5 million down the drain. And for Bottas here, we at least can take an ERS. I'm a little bit unsure if we're going to take the engine penalty here, mainly due to the fact that it is Japan, but it's moderate rain for the quali. It is light rain for the race itself. That is not necessarily a bad thing. We could potentially make something happen with it. But at the same time, as you can imagine, it's going to make overtaking a basically impossible pain for our cars. So yeah, there also isn't too many other penalties here in the play. So while I think taking the penalties hit probably is the best choice, it's going to cost us about 16 million, 2 ERSs, 2 engines, and a gearbox. It basically is going to guarantee that we're not going to get anything out of this race. And unfortunately, sometimes that's just how things are. Particularly with crashes, you are going to have to make some rough choices here. We have already taken an ERS penalty. There's not a lot of other cars that are taking penalties here, and that ERS penalty is going to be a 10-place grid drop to begin with. So we'll be starting towards the back of the pack anyways. So I think we are just going to go bite the bullet and eat the new engine here. And it actually does tell us on this screen how much money we have left, cost cap remaining. And well, as one would expect, we are going to be eating, those penalties. We should have about 35 million left after we have done this. But you can actually check your remaining cost cap right here. So this screen is not bugged, hilariously enough. But we are going to have to eat a engine part. And as I said, we should just about have enough money here to make this work. We're going to have to buy a new car part for Show as well. We will be using these parts in qualifying. In particular, just so the penalty gets applied. And as you can see, we'll have just about 1 million remaining, 34 million left of the cost cap. So we're still not bad. But if we have a couple of bad crashes, we could end up in, not the best of situations, so to speak. But we'll be taking the penalties here. It's going to suck, but it's just how things are going to have to be. The setup for Bottas isn't actually bad. It's just that I need to, get into the blue zones. With that said, though, we'll get through quali and we'll see how this race actually goes. Unsurprisingly, qualify didn't have any, effect. We are going to hit with grid penalties here. We'll be starting at the back of the grid. It is what you expect, though. And for the race itself, it's going to start raining fairly soon, which could potentially give us some chances here. But at the same time, it probably not. It'll depend very much on where exactly, when rather, the rain arrives. But in general, this wouldn't have too much of an effect on the race itself. We'll still try and make the best out of it, though. Alright, the race has begun here. As you can see, we're pretty far back. We got held up by Piastri, who has just crashed out. It's been a bit of a wild one so far. Hamilton also had a bit of a crash. We have a virtual safety car right now. So what I'm thinking is that with the rain now going up slowly at that, but it is going up. And it's going to keep on going up. It's been going up by about 20 millimeters a lap. So by the time we get to pits, it should be around, 55 maybe. But after pit stop, and we can actually, roll it kind of cool on the inters, I think we take advantage of this VSC to just get both cars into pit. But we will also be tuning them down as soon as we get to the pit lane. And as you can see, other cars are also taking the opportunity here to pit. And that is one of the reasons too that we're going to do this.
Yes,
It's going to be a bit of a
we
gamble.
have. We've had a crash.
But
What
at the same
happened there?
time, it's going to be what we have to do. The Rainer is going up a little bit slower than anticipated. We're just going to be about 50 millimeter once we get out here. And we did have a slow pit stop too for Bottas, which is not going to be helping us out at all. But right now, we do need to actually run it on conserve because the heat is going to quickly and rapidly go up in these tires. And if we do not run it on conserve, we are straight up just going to burn out, so to speak. Does seem potentially that staying out would have been a better choice, but I want to see where we actually do end up, because we are in a position where we kind of have to take these risks. We can't turn up to light now. Heat is going down, water is coming up, and as you can see here, up until Ocon, with the exception of the Rees, we have Inters. So we'll see now if we can actually jump any of the remaining pitters. It looks like we jumped 2 of them, so going early wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Now we need to see if we can, as the water is rising, make something out of this stint. The track now is getting to the point where it's starting to dry. We're at below 0.8 millimeters. As you can see, the AR has started pitting. And we're going to do the same here. We are going to pit here. We are up to 12th. We're still far behind, points here at 12 seconds behind. But all we need to do now is choose a strategy. And I've set up a couple ones for us to choose. We can go for a hard tire here, go aggressive till the end. That is one option. We can go for medium, standard, with a little bit of aggression towards the end. Or we can go super aggressive, put on a soft, and then a medium, and push as hard as we can. It is potentially a second quicker than this one. So we are going to go with that one because I would think that would be more fun. But also because it should give Bottas a better chance at jumping people in the pit stops. Although going hards would probably be better for, long-term pace. This is what we're going to be gambling on. It's going to be a very, very aggressive strategy, don't get me wrong. But I think it's one that we can potentially make work here. And we're just going to do the same for show. He is pretty far back. Not really anything we can do for him. He is another 10 seconds behind Bottas again. But I think this is the best strategy that in this case that we have available to us. And as you can see, a lot of people are pitting. If we can gain something on Magnussen, who opts not to pit, by doing this, that would be amazing. We'll see if we can maybe catch Sainz a little bit here. There is a yellow flag now. Please don't be a safety car or, something like that. But we did get out in good speed here for Bottas. There is Norris ahead who could potentially hold both us and Sainz up. And we'll have to see if this gives us the chance of jumping Magnussen, who is now in the pit. And that is probably not going to happen then, I would assume. No. Can we close the gap down, though, to less than 10 seconds? Did we gain anything by pitting earlier? We kind of did. We're 8 seconds behind now. So it wasn't all in vain. And for show here, too, didn't really get too much. They went on to medium tires. They are going to be running a bit slower. We do need to make up time for both Bottas and show in order to make the strategy work. We'll see if we can pull that off. It's probably going to be a tad difficult, though. Unfortunately, we didn't actually make anything happen. We were close, though. Bottas is, as you can see, just about 3 seconds away from points, which I'd say is a decent recovery drive. Show is a bit further back, but still finished 15th. A little bit of help by a Piastri and Tsunoda, of course, crashing out, but it is what it is. We had our opportunities. The strategy didn't work out. It's just how things be sometimes, but we'll just have to eat this this failure. We're also going to get financially punished because we did say that we were going to finish in the top 15. We did also have a couple of pit stop problems, but generally it wouldn't have made much difference on this track. And here you see the financial punishment. We failed the qualifying goal and we failed the finish position streak. But honestly, it's still okay. We should be able now, with the new engines, with everything, unless we crash, of course, to get the rest of our goals completed. That's what I would think. 4 failed components on one car, 1 on the other. So yeah, financially, buying all those new parts probably wasn't the best idea ever. And we might not be able to upgrade the car part test center any further this year. Mainly because of the fact that, well, we are going to need to... we're going to need to save up money. You want at least 20 million when you start a new season because there's a lot of costs to, that you need to deal with. So we're going to have to save a little chunk of cash to, deal with that. The front wing research has completed. We get another couple of percentages here, which isn't bad. And I think we'll just do another front wing research here. And that is, again, perfectly fine. We'll probably use the final safety period also on the front wing, and we are getting dangerously low on cash. But if we start another chassis project here, that should be fine. Although, with that said, we are going to spend a little bit of money on manufacturing parts. Probably shouldn't do front wings, though. We still have a couple of spare. What I should do is probably something else that we're lacking more, you know, desperately. But looks like we are actually caught up. So let's make a rear wing, and then we'll make the, the remaining front wings to catch up. We do have a research completing too, though, the chassis here. I might just do another chassis research. There we go. Manufacture of suspension and sidepod is complete. And we'll just immediately chuck in a new one. This is why you want to upgrade your factory immediately, particularly as Alfa Romeo, because if you don't, you're just going to end up getting swamped by not being able to get past out for your team. And be very careful with your money, because if you go into death, you're gonna suffer. There's nothing the board hates more than you going into death. They just can't deal with that. Okay, looks like we did get that chassis boost completed. Oh, stop. I need to start a new research. And luckily, we actually ticked over the month here, so we now have money to do a new research. Side pods, maybe. Suspension would probably be a better choice, all things considered. The chassis, not really a huge gain for anything, but it's a quick research, that's the thing. So what I'm thinking here is that we might do a chassis. But again, financially now we are kind of poor. So we'll do a suspension and we'll just do it normally, 40 days, 1 engineer. You can put extra engineers on projects, as I said earlier. But again, it's going to depend on if you are financially capable of making that, of covering the cost. And right now, 26 million to go. It might sound like a lot. It's a quarter of our basic budget. Well, not a quarter. It's more like a fifth or a sixth even. It might sound like a lot, but at the same time, it really isn't. It can easily go away with just a single crash here. So there's a few things to keep in mind there with your cost cap. It can quickly get eaten up by all sorts of random events. 2 points of cornering for show. A point of reactions for Bottas. We'll take that. Our talent is still developing, although I've, put no faith in him. And we'll set up a pit crew training schedule again. Now, the pit crews currently are a little bit bugged in terms of the level of fatigue they get. It seems to be way more than probably what was intended. As you can see, even if we do not do anything here, here's the thing. They're currently weary, and we'll be weary in the next race too, no matter what we do. It's kind of silly, because when we put this schedule for last month into action, if you'll remember, it said we would have 4% fatigue. So I want to check on race day again if this is actual, the fatigue that we're going to be getting. But if it is, it's kind of problematic, because they've basically made fatigue insane levels then. Because again, this is a week after the last race. So yeah, bit worrisome. For now though, we'll just do a little bit careful here with the planning. And if this is how they're going to stop people from having maxed out pit crews, I don't know what to say, honestly, in that case. Have some gym training too, and it should be okay, I think. But yeah, we basically just have 5 training sessions in over the course of a month, because they are tired and need the rest. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. We'll have a look, as I said, once we do actually reach Lusail here, Qatar, and we'll see if it actually is around 37-47. And if we do see that potential 45% chance of a pit error. So yeah, looking forward to that. Although we might have seen that this weekend though, because we did have 2 errors out of 6 tries, about 33% failure chance. So it is something to consider. But now though, we'll have a look at any replacement here. Anyone interested? Dr. Beer is interested. Could potentially just hire him from Alpine next season. It's probably the best that we're going to get, unless we, hire next year. And I think that's fine. We'll offer him like 4 million, 3 million, 2 million. Let's start there. Give him a 3-season contract to see what he feels about that. And 2 million is too little, but he's happy with the rest of the perks. We'll also go ahead and give him a 200,000 signing bonus. Of course, I don't know what the cost of breaking his contract is going to be here. That's going to be a bit of a problem. But let's see if 2.5 is enough. It is not. Okay. What if I do... No, not this one. What if we do 3 million? Because we still have 2 chances to try it, we'll put him in 3 million. And if not, he's going to probably need 3.5, which is very close to the big shot, so to speak. Because I think you can get some of the highest rated one for about 4 million, 4.3. So... he's happy with this. If we are to hire him, how much would it cost? It would just be the signing bonus. He's actually out of contract next year. So sure, we'll go ahead and hire him, get ourselves a little bit of a boost next year. And that is basically all of our staff and drivers taken care of for the next season. We'll just keep the guys we have. We might try and snatch this man right here. His remaining contract is 1 year. So once we switch teams next year, we might actually try and kind of snatch him. But I'm curious how it's going to work. We'll have to have a look at that. We might just have to hire someone else for this team in order to snatch him. It's going to be a bit confusing, I think, but we'll deal with that once we get there. Car Part Test Center Level 2 has been upgraded. Unfortunately, we no longer have the money to upgrade it further, so it'll just have to be as it is. And we did, as I say, fail the finish position streak. We'll try once again. 5 races, top 10, and I think that should be doable. Show has had a couple of bad showings here for qualifying, so we'll be a little bit careful now. 1 car in Q2, 1 car in Q3, which has actually been what's happened the last couple of races. But at least now we have new components. We should be getting some, you know, buffs from... not buffs, we should be getting some help from having fresh components while the others are taking penalties. Let's go to Qatar. It's going to be a sprint weekend. Let's see how we do. Pretty boring race here at Lusail. Unfortunately, the 2-stopper didn't really work out too well for us here. As you can see, we finished 9th. But we weren't too far off the, you know, a little bit further up, but at the same time, it wasn't the best strategy. Stroll here pulled off a massive 1-stop in 14 positions. Show and Bottas each lost 1, but it is what it is. The other teams are starting to catch up. Remember, we haven't actually developed our car since basically the first few races. And Alpine has actually overtaken us right now, which honestly is okay with us. We will get more development time next year if this happens, but we still have races to go. It can still turn around. I wouldn't be too, you know, certain that they will beat us. In terms of pit stops, though, we are a little bit concerned here with Red Bull. They did basically score a bunch of points this time. And with a few races to go here, they could potentially still snatch that money away from us, which wouldn't be too great. We failed the qualifying here. We didn't have any driving Q3, and that did cost us. So that is also one thing now that we are getting into a bit of a position where we are getting kind of bodied because of the fact that we don't have any sort of advantage anymore. Now, suspension has been manufactured, sidepod has been manufactured, and luckily this time we had no pass-fail inspection. As you can see, we also ran with the more broken engine for show. And we're also running those that gearbox. We're still running a bit of a broken engine here. We want to use it as much as possible. Well, because in case something happens, we'd like to just grind it down a little bit. We will go through the warehouse though and just see what we have left. There are 5 races remaining. We also have, I believe, 2 sprints. So in theory, it's going to be a little bit more than that to go. Or is it 6 races remaining? Let's check. It is 5 races, and as you can see, 2 sprints. So still a little bit of work to put in, but I wouldn't be too concerned. And we were actually, I believe, up to date on the parts. I'm just double checking here because sometimes I just work on autopilot. I check something, see that it is as it should be, and then 10 seconds pass and I forget about it. Now, we have high board confidence. This is a very good event if you have bad confidence with the board and you want to gamble. But right now, we'll just deny it. We don't care what happens here. The board is still gonna, you know, love me. So rather than having one potentially bad performance like at Suzuka completely ruin that, we'll just deny that and still be happy with ourselves. Now, next up, we'll be jumping into Coda. Again, it's a sprint weekend, but we'll see what happens. If it's pretty boring like the last one, we'll just skip over it. Right, Coda, sprint has just started, and in turn 1, Russell decides to get killed by a Haas.
That's quite an impact.
Haas sends his regards, I guess, but we didn't have the best qualifying. As you can see on our current position, basically we qualified 14th and 16th, so not the greatest. We do have a safety car now that is going to make our lives a lot easier, because the main problem with Coda is degradation, and For the mediums here in particular,
Safety car.
you kind of have to run them standard just to make them last till
Follow
the
data, follow data.
till the end
Copy.
of the race. So
Just
this
look
does
out
give
for
us
the
an
tires.
opportunity to jump up a little bit, and we'll see if we can take that here. But yeah, we had a horrible qualifying at Coda, much like we did at Lusail. We have another turn 1 incident here that is going to help us out a bunch because they took out the Mercedes. Unfortunately, not the Alpine in this case, but once again, it's Haas on Mercedes violence, and I just find that a bit funny. Or in this case, it might be Hamilton that takes revenge for what happened to Russell earlier, and it kind of looks like that. I think they're going to crash again. And they did. They did crash again. When you basically... I can't remember what it's called, but basically he took him out by... pit maneuvered him. He pit maneuvered an F1 car. That is actually amazing. But yeah, that safety car is going to help us out. It's going to make this first stint a lot more bearable. We are going to go with a pretty aggressive medium, hard, medium. If we had 2 hards, we would have gone for that instead. But this should make our life a little bit easier here. Joe also involved in an incident. Been a lot of stuff going on so far this race.
Dangerously close to each other.
I think Ocon attempts an overtake and then he just gets clipped. Yep, looks like that. Unfortunately, Show did eat the penalty for that. It is what it is. But we also had Leclerc crash out here, so it's a bit of an interesting one from, again, several perspectives with that. Bottas is up in 7th here. He is squeezed between Albon and Alonso. Alonso gets the overtake done, though, and with that, we might see, you know, us flying up a little bit. Gasly is going to be a bit of a problem here in terms of maybe beating the Alpines. But at this point, I'd say we are looking good, and we'll see how this race actually ends up progressing for us. We have yet another virtual safety car. Unfortunately, we have just pitted, so this safety car isn't going to help us in any way, shape, or form. It is Sainz this time. It looks pretty far back, though, so is he going to... Oh! That was so unlucky, but that was actually a trick shot, too. So, yeah, Coda definitely is not leaving any survivors this time around. I would imagine that is both Tsunoda and Sainz out. But there is a lot of cars in front of us who haven't pit, so this is going to come basically perfect for them. It is very unfortunate timing for us, because as I said, De Vries, Ocon, Norris, Russell, basically everyone except for Perez and Verstappen ahead of us has yet to pit, and they'll now be able to pit kind of under the safety car or virtual safety car. Some of them opted to not do it, which is a bit surprising. And as you can see, we didn't even beat Hülkenberg or Gasly for that matter out. And if you pit under a virtual safety car here, you do save about 5 seconds. So, yeah, we would have been ahead of them if not for the virtual safety car. However, with the VSC ending now, we should jump the rest and potentially even Alonso here. Unfortunately, couldn't get that done. But it was just a bit unlucky for us. It is what it is. We'll have Bottas go aggressive now on this hard stint, and we'll try and get the, you know, something out of this. A lot of cars are out, cars that usually get in the points. So, you know, getting a good result here shouldn't be too difficult. I'm pretty sure that Perez and Verstappen, unless they take each other out, are going to finish 1-2. But if we're lucky, we might be able to steal the podium from Alonso. We'll see how this all develops. Didn't really have any more incidents, but again, this kind of highlights the weakness of the car. We ended up here 6th. Hülkenberg ended up ahead of us. Gasly in 4th, Alonso in 11th. No chance of catching them. As you can see, there's a half a minute between Gasly and Alonso. So I was hopeful, but let's face it, the car just isn't there right now. The AI has outdeveloped us. But that also bodes very well for next season because, well, the cornering ability is the most important asset of a car. And right now, the AI has developed their car this season rather than next, which is what they usually do. They will, on average, do 2 research projects for each part each season, which means that the player can easily outdevelop them. Now, we still scored points, but Alpine scored more by far. So we might finish 6th, but honestly, as I said, that is fairly acceptable to me. It's not actually a problem. It is better than what the board expected. We get more CFD time, meaning that we can make a more powerful car next year. We did get the 3rd and 4th best pit stop though, so that is good. But we also once again had a pit stop error that kind of potentially cost Bottas a fight with Hülkenberg. But Haas needs points, so we will not be too salty about that. We once again failed to get both cars into Q2. So one of them went out in Q3, 1, which is a bit embarrassing, but it's just how it is. Can't really do anything about that. Next up, though, we do have Mexico. Board was impressed, so yeah, that is really all we could hope for. We're going to go straight into Mexico. This one should be pretty straightforward. We do apparently lack some car parts here. 3 failed parts for the car. Should check that before we moved ahead. But considering that the quote-unquote vault was full, pretty sure that we have enough parts where just starting to manufacture them again isn't actually going to be an issue. It should go fairly quick and fairly painless here. And to make matters easier, we don't really have that many races to go. After next race in, I believe it is Sao Paulo, Brazil, the last sprint weekend, we're probably not going to manufacture any more parts because these two should be fine on their own in terms of the parts that we have remaining. Or we'll just use weaker parts to make life a little bit easier for ourselves. We will still gamble on getting a car in the points. We will still put one car in Q3. Nah, we're just going to say that both cars are going to get into Q2. It might cost a little bit of money, but we do need that right now. We are poor. So we'll see what we can do here at Mexico. Pretty eventless, boring, rather, Mexican Grand Prix. Bottas made up 9 places. Show made up 2 because I made a error in the pre-race planning. Basically, I ended up saving all the way to through qualifying. So the AI did qualifying for us, which of course made us 18th and, as you can see, 17th. No, that's not right. 16th? 18th and 16th, I think. I think that makes sense. Does it? No, 8 plus 9 should be 17. So yeah, 17, 16, somewhere around there. We started pretty far back, but we made it up in this race. Unfortunately, could probably have had a better result unless, you know, if I did it manually. As you can see, we had a bit of a fight with Hulkenberg to the line. We couldn't get him, though. It's a bit unfortunate. Perez, though, does win his home race, so that is at least something positive to take with us. And as I said, Alpine here just aren't someone we can catch right now. We aren't really scoring points anymore. But Alpine, if they have a good race they could potentially catch Merc, which would be hilarious. But at the same time, finally, no pit stop errors. So, I don't know. The pit calendar is kind of weird. And I think we'll just say one car in Q2 from this point forwards, just to be on the safe side. As long as I do it manually, it shouldn't be any problems getting that done. The final ATR period is starting today. And we're probably going to put that in the front wing. The underfloor suspension for both cars, that could be a little bit problematic, but I think it should still be fine. We'll see. But yeah, the final ATR period starts today. We are probably going to put that into we're going to make one more underfloor. It's already happening. We're going to put that into the front wing once we get the project currently done, which will be just in a few days, 12 days. So it won't take long. We have the Brazilian GP before that, though. This is the final sprint race of the season. Should make things a little bit easier. And in terms of driver development update, point of smoothness there for Bottas is a godsend. We need to get his smoothness up a little bit. 2 points for show, but of course we're switching him out with Alonso next season, so it won't matter much. Reaction and adaptability point. Now, I'm curious about what the pit crew feels like right now. As you can see, they are tired, they're exhausted. There is definitely something up with this calendar, because it does not seem to be fair. It does not seem to be accurate at all. And that makes it very, very difficult, if the calendar itself isn't accurate, to estimate just how, you know, tired your pit crew actually is. And it makes it damn near impossible to train them unless you want to, for the first basically half of the season, get constantly hit with problems. Basically have a pit stop error every pit stop and just max the stats, because that is basically what you're going to have to do if this is going to keep on like this. And this is the final race, so what we're going to do is just that. We're going to be maximizing the pit stop error chance going into December, and we're just going to be drilling them hard to try and get that done. These are the last 3 races this season. We'll just keep it like this, but it is very annoying and, you know, a bit tiresome to have to deal with a fatigue that doesn't seem to be actually working as anticipated, or rather it is there, but the number is wrong, and that is causing, as I said, a bit of pain. Now, one drive in the points should still be doable. I think we'll say one drive in Q2. I don't think we're going to get into Q3, because as I've said, our car has been deteriorating compared to our opponent, mainly due to the fact that, well, we haven't developed it since Baku, basically. And as you can see, on Sunday, we're going to have a rain. So there's going to be rain for the race itself, which could make things even more interesting here. The sprint here was pretty painless. We ended up 9th and 10th, so just outside the points. But the same goes for the Mercedes cars, both of them for that matter. Alpine still doing well, surprisingly so, I might add. But as you can see, there's 5 cars ahead of us here with penalties, so we could have a very interesting start to the race here, potentially. We should be starting higher up than 9th and 10th. Penalties will not apply during the sprint, so I would assume that with heavy rain and the potential there for, you know, promotions, as you can see, Show got promoted to 5th, Bottas just to 8th, even though they were next to each other. We could potentially have something fun happen here. It's heavy rain, but as you can see, it's actually it's actually starting very late here, and it's not going to be heavy enough for us to get into, you know, full wet territory. So we need to plan for lap 40 plus minus 5 laps, depending on what's happening. So we'll set up a strategy with that in mind, and it can be kind of daunting to try and set up a strategy like this. But in theory, I think that what the easiest thing that we could do is just straight up go hard to from medium to hard, and it does fit that window very, very well. We go aggressive on the mediums, we go aggressive on the hards, and in case we need to, you know, stretch the tire somewhat, because again, this should be when the inters are gonna start hitting. We can actually check once we get closer to, you know, the lap 17, 18, 19, if we need to pit earlier for the hards, because we should be a little bit easier on the prediction there. And if we need to, we'll just light up on the hard tire then. So for this, the easiest way to do this would probably be to, as I've done here, just start with a medium to hard, and then adapt as we figure out when exactly the rain starts hitting for sure. If it's going to come a little bit earlier, we can, you know, go on the hards a little bit sooner. If it's going to come a little bit later, we have a little bit of wiggle room here to, you know, take advantage of it and adapt if we need to. So we do have a good, I feel, strategy here, and this is what we're going to go for. We've had a bit of an incident here in Sector 1. Nothing too major, I think, because we haven't gone over to safety car yet, but it is Perez, and it also is the Aston Martin. That does give them a little bit of problems, but I guess it was just a light touch. No real damage as far as I can see, unless, of course, there is damage to tires, which could very well happen with a move like that. But it looks like they are fine. Now, in terms of our current position, we're running in 9th and 7th, as you can see. And the rain is going to be arriving when predicted, around lap 39, around lap 40. So we did go on to these hard tires a little bit too late, but honestly, we're in a great position here, and we are going to try and take as much advantage as we can. We have better tires than most of the cars around us, except for Gasly here. It probably is going to be a little bit quicker, but we are running full attack, and we will do that, as well as put fuel into probably 3 kilograms in deficit. Because when it's wet, you regain fuel a lot more quicker because you're not as aggressively using it. So we'll be pushing, and we'll see where we're at after the pit stops for the rain. Another incident, another crash, this time the Vries, I believe. But Piastri and the Vries, the McLaren's running a bit of a blocker there. Just a light touch, but they both have to kind of slow down, which is understandable. At the same time, though, we are getting very close now to that super rainy period. It should be arriving in the next 4 minutes. And getting this pit stop correct is going to be kind of critical. Because if we get this pit stop correctly, we could potentially jump Sainz and Stroll. And overtaking on a wet track is far more difficult than overtaking on a dry track. So we do want to try and get this right. And honestly, I should have probably gotten Bottas in here. Paris pits, Verstappen pits. Because it is going to get a lot wetter, a lot quicker. So I might have moved a little bit too quick there, which is something that happens every now and again. But luckily enough, we should be able to get Show in. And we can use him as kind of a guinea pig to see how this is going to work out. His pit stops goes great. He should come out ahead. Nah, he comes out just about behind Russell. But everyone is getting into, you know, the pitting spirit, if you will. And as you can see, we'll see what we can do in terms of jumping any other cars in front. Probably not going to happen. We're still in 7th though, so it's still good. Thought for a second there we were getting a safety car. But Bottas has actually jumped onto the tires at the perfect time. And in terms of overheating these, we can push them to 105 degrees. Should probably tune Show down a little bit here. But with the heat now, with the water going up, we should be running on these tires probably till the end of this race. So we do need to take care of them, although it could be viable to run them full attack and pit. We'll have to see. The pit stops here are really, really short, particularly if we get in a virtual safety car, we'll probably do so. But for now, we'll just stay as we are and try and make the best out of this race. We do have an incident of interest here, if you will. There is a virtual safety car happening right now. If we were to pit, we'd end up behind Gasly by about 10 seconds. Show does actually have the gap to safely pit. So what we are going to do here is get onto new tires, but as you can see, they just shave off about 0.3 seconds a lap. So honestly, it's not going to be worth it. So for Bottas here, we are just not going to do it. But I want to test it out for show and see if it could have been the better strategy. Because I feel like most of the estimates on wet weather in particular is fairly unreliable. So we're going to go ahead here, get show in, put him onto a new fresh set of tires, and see if he can close down on the cars in front. Basically, see if his lap times improves by a lot. For now though, we need to wait for this virtual safety car to reach its conclusion before we do that. Like so. And he's going to have to be given at least a couple of laps here to, you know, get in a proper one. Gasly has actually overtaken Bottas. I assume he had a bit of an incident. Seeing where he is on the track, I would assume so. Bit of a spin, okay.
Heading on to Junsao. That's it. That's the spin. To be fair, though.
Well, at least it wasn't very massive. So it's still good. But it does give up a position to Gasly. And as you can see here, we're running 18 now. So it might very well have been worth it. But considering the cars behind us are that much quicker, I want to see what the show's lap time this time is going to be. 15.7. So still equal to Gasly. Don't think it's going to matter. Show with a bit of a lockup, but as you can see, didn't actually have an effect on him. He didn't crash, which is the most important part. And as I said, we'll just have him run till the end. We'll see if he can catch Bottas. Bottas is not catching anyone, so we'll just allow it to take it a little bit easier until the end of this race. Here we are. We ended up 8th and 9th. Nothing too major. Bit of unfortunate there for Bottas. I'm pretty sure he would have had gas if not for that spin. But it's not all bad. It gives Alpine more of a chance to run down Mercedes, which is just a fun little thing for me. But considering that we just have 2 races to go now, I think, yeah, 2 races to go, they're going to have to pull something amazing out of the bag, like a podium or 2, to make this happen. So, looking forward to seeing how the season will finish here. We did have better pit stop this time around, and I'm pretty sure this, gives us the pit stop award for sure. And seeing that we didn't have any errors, I'm pretty sure that the wariness of my pit crew is just wrongly represented, which is a bit of an issue, honestly. We have a bunch of stuff going. Research, manufacturing, we'll be going through them in order. So a rowing has been finished here. This is the one with CFD time. As you can see, a huge boost of about 10% across the board. The underfloor research has been completed. This is a minor one without CFD wind tunnel, but it's still a good research to have, honestly. We have a few things failing here, mainly the front wings. We are going to go ahead and replace them for both cars. And seeing that we have 2 races left, we should go through the warehouse here and see if we need to make something in particular. We have enough chassis. I do want to make 2 front wings just to be on the safe side. That should be enough now. The rear wing, we're going to gamble. It is something that is quick to make. The underfloor too, we can kind of gamble. But I would like to get another suspension. And apparently that project is already undergoing. So yeah, no big problem there. We actually have 2 under production. So I think we are all up to code on parts. Now, we do have the research going here, and we need to make a decision on what to do next. That's underfloor is still a great idea. Chassis is still a good idea for basically engine cooling, high speed, medium speed, and top speed. But as you can see, the underfloor gives us more, but it takes 1.5 times as long. So there is a few things that we could do here. We could also go with the side pods for some more engine cooling. But I think we're just going to do underfloor and rear wing again. It is a bit boring, but those parts just have so much to say on your car that I think it's actually worth it. And that is mainly what it comes down to, cornering ability. Now, the side pods do need a little bit of work still. They aren't actually hit by regulations, and we have already put a safety period into it, so that's fine. Same with the chassis. So yeah, we'll focus on things that actually are going to get hit. That should be fine, honestly. Suspension research complete, which means that we will do as I just said and focus on things that are being hit, like the suspension. We'll put in another period here, and as you can see, it's mainly low speed cornering and brake cooling the benefit, but that is fine. Now, as you can see, that I should probably have planned this a little bit better, because we have this is probably going to be the last project that we get in before winter, so to speak. So what we could do here is probably, if we want to be really, really cheeky, is to put in a 20-day project on this, and then try and get a 30-day project of this in. Let's see if that's actually possible. It is just about, but I need to be, frame perfect to make this work. And I think it's going to be more value for us to just do a normal project. Although, that's probably not true. It's probably more value to do a chassis and a front wing, even though we rush both of them. But we're just going to do it like this. It's going to be a little bit easier for us, honestly, and that's kind of what I'm going with here. We're getting about 8% across the board, so the front wing is a little bit more advanced than the rest of the car, but it's going to be worth it. We are going to put back to just one engineer, extend the time as much as possible, and with that, we basically have now every single one of our research projects done, because the earliest one is finishing in 38 days. Now, we could actually speed up, say, the underfloor research here by slapping in some more days, like so. And this would actually allow us to get a chassis research in as well. So we'll actually do this instead. I'll be a little bit greedy. We will speed up the underfloor, and that'll allow us to do one more chassis research as well before this year is over. Now, the front wing research we did, a small increase, but the next one is going to give us more. We're back up to the required numbers of front wings, which is good. We have some CFD sim concerns. Shut down for 7 days. I'm wondering if this is going to shut down our research as well. But I guess we just have to approve of this, honestly. The problem with us is it's going to be bad anyways, so we'll just approve. Suspensions have been manufactured, so we should be all up to code now on parts. And next up here is Las Vegas. We are just going to get this done rather quickly. We are kind of done with this season, in all honesty. And what I mean by this is very simply the fact that we can't really make any, inroads in the standings. We will not be catching Alpine or Mercedes, which I kind of had as a goal. We will not be falling down behind Haas unless they, score full points for the remaining races. And even then, I think we're safe. Driver Championship, Bottas, he can get caught by Hamilton. But let's face it, with the Merc form in the last few races, I don't think that's going to happen. So, as I said, we're basically kind of done with this season because there's no real movement for us. The only thing that would be interesting to see here is if Alpine catches Mercedes. There's probably nothing interesting in the Driver Championship, in all honesty. The probably closest fight is Sainz and Alonso. But that is kind of how it is with these races towards the end. We could see if Tsunoda or Albon comes out on top. But generally here, there is very little entertainment. AlphaTauri versus Williams, Tsunoda versus Albon. That's basically it in terms of the AI creating something for us. For now, though, we'll head to Las Vegas and we'll see what how we do there. Once again, a fairly uneventful race. We tried a two-stopper. Kind of worked out, honestly, but we did get held up a little bit too much. So, not really. We would have had to go a little bit longer on that first stint to make it worth it. But it is what it is. Verstappen made it work, but that's basically an anomaly, I would say. He had enough time to make that happen. Still got 8th and 9th though, so it's not all bad. It is a pretty decent improvement in terms of positions, so we'll take that for sure. Driver Championship then, all the championship here. Alpine is no longer able to catch Mercedes unless they, get a 1-2. So, yeah, I don't think we have much more hope for that one, to be fair. They're basically going to need a 1-2 at this stage. Well, not really, because they're just, 27 points behind? So they really just need a, first place, fastest lap, and a 10th place. But basically, if they score points, I'm pretty sure Mercedes is scoring points too. So they're going to have a difficult time of it. They could, of course, also pull off something like, 3rd and 4th. That could work. But they're going to have some luck to pull that off for sure. Pistol-wise, we are, as I said, safe up top here. No way for Red Bull to catch us now, so we are getting that extra money. And the pit stops all went pretty nicely there. And for once, we didn't get punished because we didn't make, our goals, so to speak. Car inspection results, we have a failed rear wing and failed side pods, but considering that we only have one race to go now, the final one, there's no need for us to really, make new parts. The simulator concerns, No sign of structural damage, really didn't need to. But I'd still recommend just doing that because otherwise you might lose 10 days. Of course, doing it at the end of the season when you need to, get research done, that's probably the only time you might want to try and, gamble on it not being wrong. But at the same time, if you're wrong, and it's going to be basically twice as much time, so 10 to 14 days versus just a week or so. So it's a bit of a gamble. Start of season 2, I would probably avoid gambling, but well, that's probably one of the times you're gambling, but then you're gambling pretty aggressively, to put it like that. Okay, no guarantees here since it's the final race. The finish position here, we'll say 1 car in the points again. It is very reliable for us to do so. We'll have 1 car in the Q2. Just, again, we're just playing a little bit safe. We have money for next season, so we don't need to take any risks here. We're going to quickly get through Abu Dhabi, and I don't think we're going to have anything interesting here, but if there is, I'll of course show it to you. We're at the final race, Abu Dhabi, just started, and we immediately had a bit of an incident here with Show.
Right, we're down at turn 5.
Him and Albon, bit of an altercation. It happens. As you can see, we have a bit of damage there to the front wing. Nothing too major, but it still ain't great, and it is going to be minor damage to front wing. Luckily here, we didn't actually take any damage to the tire itself, and we did get hit with a penalty, but even so, we'll still try and make the best out of this race. We started pretty high up with both cars, so we're in good chance of getting points there, but that front wing, he'll just have to live with it, unfortunately, and see if we can make something out of it still, even with the damage that he's currently, has. So we'll make the best out of it and see if we can get a good race result here. Strategy-wise, it's again a fairly aggressive one. It is potentially quicker to run medium on attack with hard on attack and 2 attacks off stints, basically a 3-stopper, but it does require you to go through traffic. So we're going with this one. It's a bit more boring, but it should be more reliable in terms of lap times just because of the fact that we aren't going to be too held up by traffic. But yeah, you can, if you want to, go with a super aggressive 3-stopper here, and it is actually fairly viable. We're getting towards the end of the race here. Nothing of interest happened. Show just hasn't had a good day after the incident. He's down in 17th. We did end up replacing that front wing. Didn't really help him much at all. But as you can see, he is really far behind Bottas, and they've been on the same strategy. That does put a little bit of a damper on the festivities. Now Bottas is running in 7th. We have Magnussen in a surprising 6th place here. So I assume that Tsunoda was close to end the Williams versus AlphaTauri fight, but unfortunately they're going to be equal. Haas scoring some good points here for themselves, and unfortunately for Ocon and Gasly, no point for Alpine, so they could not topple Mercedes. We're going to end up 6th the first season, which is acceptable, honestly. If we wanted to, we probably would have developed the car a little bit more with at least 1 or 2 more wind tunnel or CFD periods to speed up development for this season. On design, I mean, rather than research. But we have decided to focus on next season, and that's going to be the main goal, rather than the Alfa Romeo Survive series, which had basically the goal of doing as good as we could in that first season. Now we end up 7th and 17th. Basically, Bottas where he started. Show fell down a few places, but it is what it is. Perez wins. Driver Championship then. Verstappen is our winner. Perez comes in 2nd. Then we have Leclerc, Sainz, then Alonso and Stroll. Keep in mind, Alonso's going to be our star next season, although he has started degrading a bit. We'll see if we can keep him, up and running. We did beat both Mercs, though, with Bottas, so we'll take that as a consolation prize. Gasly comes in 10th, and we have Show here down in 14th. Nick actually scored himself a point, which I believe might actually put... Did he score a point in this race? When did De Vries score a point? But AlphaTauri does beat Williams then, but I don't actually know when De Vries got that point. Maybe last time out? Maybe a sprint? I honestly don't know. He's actually somehow snuck himself to a point without me realizing. But we just barely win the DHL Fastest Pit Stop Championship here, which gives us more money for next season. It's good. Bottas with a bit of an error here. There's changing of the front wing, but honestly, didn't really affect us in any way, shape, or form, so it's fine. A little bit extra money, and as I said, this is basically us finishing off the first season. We have everything now, I think, kind of set up for next year. There's not really anything that's going to be massively changing. Red Bull here almost beat 1,000 points as well, 60 points off. So it's looking good, honestly. Underfloor failed, but it's the end of the year. Pass don't matter no more. And Gunther Steiner offers his congratulations. You blew us out of the water a little bit this season. Can't deny that. Call it a lucky break, though. Let's see if I can repeat that luck next time. Enjoy the end of the year, and I'll see you on track soon. Best wishes. So yeah, nice little... You beat us this year, but we're going to come back with you next year message. So the staff changes here. We aren't actually having anyone switching the teams here. We are bringing in Dirk de Beer from Alpine because he was the only one who was interested. In terms of our driver changes here, we are getting Alonso in. He has to grade a little bit more. At the end of the year, older drivers tend to lose stats. So while he's still 88 rated, he will be more than good enough to, you know, score his points that year. Shouldn't be a problem. We also have a board review coming up at the end of the year, which isn't surprising. And the driver development update here. Bottas gets the cornering point, adaptability for show. I'm actually very interested in seeing where he ends up next year. Now, in terms of what we want to do here, we are actually going to put everything on gym training. They're going to be training the entirety of the winter. And basically due to the fact that, well, it doesn't seem like training has, you know, the weariness in this case, exhausted or not, has any real effect on, you know, how quickly they gain stats. Honestly, I think that would be a better way to balance fatigue, that the more fatigued they are, the less gain they get from actually practicing. So you kind of have to balance it in some sort of way. I think that would be a better option to kind of solve the problem of pit crew training, because the first version was way too, you know, light. Very easy to have a perfect pit crew all year around after the first season. But they've kind of made it a little bit harder now. You lose more stats, which is one good way of fixing it. But they've also done something very weird here with the fatigue and the weariness. Can't actually put my finger on it because it seems to change every time I have a look at it. But honestly, it should just be that when you go from well-rested to, say, is this tired? Yeah, this is tired, this is weary, and this is exhausted. Let's say that when you go from well-rested to tired, your pit crew loses 20% efficiency in training. When you go from tired to, you know, weary, they lose an additional 20%, so you'd have a 40% loss. You can still have them train, but they would be getting less, 40% less than if they were well rested. And if they step into exhausted, say, just slap an extra 30% onto that, so you lose 70% of your progress. Let's say that in this case, we were exhausted the entire month while training. Instead of gaining 26 here, we lose about 70% of that, which would be about, well, basically 0.16 or more actually. So we'd gain a lot less progress, and we'd be forced to kind of manage fatigue in a way. But that's more of a punishing system, so I can imagine they haven't done that. And it's kind of weird for me to put this at the end of this video, but I think that would be a better way to balance the fatigue gain, because the fatigue gain wasn't really that bad in the first version. It was just that you developed a little bit too quickly. If you temper the expectations by, or temper the speed by straight up making fatigue more important, in the sense that not only does it make you more liable of mistakes during race day, but it also makes you make you train slower the higher it gets. I think that would be a decent way to kind of balance it. In this case, though, we are just going to basically force them to become the buff squad in order to have them ready by next season. And I don't know if that is a good idea. We're just going to deny any more, you know, sponsorship events. We don't care. Research complete for the underfloor. The final underfloor part here, we're up to 65%. Facility upgrade completed. The factory now is level 3. Should make development for next year a lot easier. We do have 40 million, which is more than we need, but it's okay. Racing research has also been completed. Very good. Suspension completed. Again, we did waste a few days here, basically 2 weeks for most research, but it's fine to not always min-max. While min-max it can be fun, this game doesn't really require it. Front-wing research complete, and that is everything that we wanted to research now done. We'll have a look at that in the next part, basically. But the end of the season has arrived. We have won the DHL fastest pit stop, bringing us in an extra 12 million. Perone here, the sporting director, has low morale, but that is just something he'll have to live with. The board has high confidence in us. Bottas ended up with 121 points, 7th place. Show, 14th place, 14 points. 6th place total. And our team rating has gone up a little bit. So I say we're happy with this. We didn't, beat the long-term objective, but we should beat that next year, no problem. And we did beat the, the goal here. And as you can see, the team principal rating of mine has gone up pretty drastically. The team rating has also gone up by a decent amount. We get the complimentary 1.5 million extra from the board as well. Minor technical, the wind tunnel, the season price share. We actually had a lot of changes here this year. And since we actually ended up 6th, we do get a little bit extra CFD and wind tunnel time next year. So I think every single regulation that we could have gotten actually went through. So going to be a bit interesting to have a look at it next season. But this is the end of the first season for this around the world, or rather around the grid. It's probably a better way to look at it. I gonna have to look up who actually made that comment, because they are a genius. What do you think? Should we rename to Around the Grid? Because that is probably the best way to describe this challenge. But yeah, thank you for watching. Hope you still enjoyed. I was planning originally to make this into one episode, but I realized, halfway through that, I'm gonna end up with a 4-hour video potentially if I do this, and I'll basically be a week without anything if I want to pull this off. So split into. Plan going forward is trying to get 6-7 races into each video. It'll still be less racing, it'll still be a little bit more compressed, but because it's a 10-season journey, I kind of have to do this, because my current videos have about 3 to 4 races for the most part. I'm still probably adding a little bit too much race content for what I have been doing, but if we were to do this with this challenge, let's say 3 to 4 races, let's say 4 races and just be generous, let's say that I make 6 videos for every season, it'd still take, about 3 to 4 months to finish this. Which honestly is fine because it's a longer process, but what I'm thinking is that we're still going to do, you'd probably use 3 to 4 months to finish this. But I'm thinking of trying to get out the 2 videos on this a week. Again, a little bit longer ones, a little bit more focused on development aspect, a little bit less on the racing unless we have really interesting ones. There was a lot of races in this part where basically we had no safety cars, no yellow flags, no nothing. And honestly, it wasn't much going on at all, so I cut most of it out. But yeah, let me know what you think. Is there anything you were missing, anything you want to see more of? And hopefully, I'll try and get the next part of this out probably on Wednesday, maybe? We'll see. Could be Thursday, depending on what I have time for in the coming week. But I'll try and have one on every Sunday at the very least. So hope you still enjoyed. Hope to see you next time. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. And have a good rest of the weekend. Have a good next week. Bye-bye.